NBA playing. Exciting games, wasn't it? I told you about the Warriors. Didn't I tell you about Jimmy Butler? That boy is ready to perform, man. When the lights is on, Jimmy will always show up. Man, let's talk about it. Golden State beat the Grizzlies yesterday, 121-116. Close, entertaining game. There's a new dynamic duo. Steph Curry, Chef Curry, and Jimmy Butler. Man, both of them boys went off yesterday, but they impacted the game in two different ways. You see how Steph, Steph is going to be Steph, greatest shooter alive, making his impact on the perimeter, shooting threes. And then you have Jimmy Butler, who's making his impact in other ways. He's getting to the foul line. The clock is still running, right? When he's doing a lot of these things, right? A lot of things that, Steph Curry doesn't do, right? Steph Curry gets to the line his fair share of times, right? And he should get more calls, but, that's something that Jimmy brings to the table, right? He's a slasher, not necessarily a shooter, and he punishes the perimeter defender by, just tacking on fouls and getting to the line, right? So, Jimmy's impact it can't be measured, right? And if you look at Draymond's minutes yesterday, he still played 30 minutes, but he took 5 shots and he scored 4 points. Another point that I made yesterday in the pod is I said, listen, Draymond is going to take a backseat offensively, right? To kick the defense and get the defense up and going, right? So, he took his backseat last night. He was the defensive anchor, like he always has been. And that's when you're going to get the best, Golden State Warriors team. When everybody's knowing their roles and playing their roles to the T, right? And I think last night is a great example of everybody knowing their role. Even Steve Kerr, he had a moment now where he had to remind Buddy, listen, man, let me introduce you to Steph Curry. He's the best shooter alive, and he was wide open. So that was just a reminder to Buddy, yo, listen, at the end of the day, we know you can shoot the three. We know you can hit the three. But at the end of the day, if our best player and the best shooter ever is wide open, don't you think you should get him the ball? Right? So it's those type of questioning, right? And it's not calling him out. It's not demeaning him in front of everybody. It's saying, hey, listen, you had a great shot, but you know what? There's another wide open shot from a better shooter, right? So, yes, yesterday's games were great. Orlando came through for us in the clutch yesterday. They beat up on them boys. They beat up on the Hawks, man. I think the score is 120-95. And I thought it was going to be a closer game. But one thing that you could tell, especially with the Hawks, is if Trae Young doesn't get above 8 assists, right, then that means the ball's not moving the way that it needs to move for the Hawks, right? And, last night, even Clinton Capella didn't even play, right? So Ikangu, I believe, started at center. He played pretty decent, right? But at the end of the day, they're missing some guys. And I told you from yesterday's pod that Jalen Johnson, when he went down for the season, I said the Hawks season is finished. It's a wrap, right? So, the Hawks put in a great effort, but Orlando, the next man up mantra for Orlando was just too much right now. It was too much last night, right? Even Franz and Paulo even had a off game, right? But one thing I'll say about those two young superstars, because they're going to be superstars in this league, guys, I'm telling you, book it from right now, right? Is that Paulo and Franz, even if they're having an offensive game, they still do other things to impact the game, right? Franz had 13 rebounds last night. So he wasn't hitting offensively. He finished with 13 points, but he impacts the game in other areas, right? So he was grabbing rebounds and still being a playmaker for Orlando. Paulo, I believe, had 17 points, but he might have followed that up with 9 rebounds. So he followed it up with 9 rebounds. So he's impacting the game other than just scoring the ball, right? So Wendell Carter had a nice game, 19 and 7 rebounds. And the player of the game has to go to Cole Anthony. The man had 26 off the bench, right? This is what I was talking about, Jamal Mosley and his coaching success in Orlando. He talks up his guys really well, and no matter who's in the lineup, who's injured, it's a next man up mantra, right? And that served them well last night in the victory over at Atlanta Hawks. For today's slate now, we're going to preview the play-in games, Heat versus the Bulls. I believe that tip-off is at 7:30 p.m. Chicago is favored by 2. And the late game is Mavs versus Kings. And I believe the tip-off is at 10 p.m. Let's get into Heat and Bulls. Both decent teams. I would put the Heat above the Bulls. It's been an up and down season for the Heat. Especially dealing with Jimmy Butler and all the drama that he brought earlier on in the season. I just think from a coaching and a team standpoint, I think the Heat are a better team than the Bulls. I believe that the Heat are better coached than the Bulls. I think Spoelstra is a better coach than Billy Donovan, even though Billy Donovan is a decent coach. But I just feel like the Bulls are too depleted. They don't know where they're going, right? Vučević is the last, superstar they have left on the team. They got rid of DeMar, they got rid of Zach, and Vučević seems like he's the last one to go, right? And the Bulls don't seem to me that they have direction, right? At the end of the day, you have Josh Giddey running your point. Between him and Coby White, I don't know. It's a toss-up, I guess. I guess they can play with each other, right? Pause. But again, too, at the end of the day, the ball goes through Vučević. It has to at this point, right? The Heat, I would pick the Heat in this game. I am favoring the Heat in this game just solely off the coaching and the team. Herro and Bam are the best 2 players to me in this game, and they play for the Miami Heat. I think team-wise, I think the Heat play more like a team. They have more structure, and obviously Spoelstra is going to have them ready to play, right? I just think that I think the Miami Heat make and get into the playoffs just off of the season that they had, right? They know how to play without Jimmy now. They've been doing it, right? So they have a pecking order now. Tyler Herro and Bam being at the top of the pecking order, and everybody else just falling in line and being elite role players. For that, just for those reasons that I just named, I have the Miami Heat winning this game. The Bulls are favored by 2, but I have Miami Heat winning this game. The second game of the night is the Mavs versus the Kings. I had a lot of history with the Mavs personally. I bet on them a few times, earlier on this season, and everything was going well, until Luka, went down and got hurt and then eventually got traded. But, that's just another conversation for another day. We'll keep it over there. But regardless of what it is, just to preview this game, I think the Mavs, without Kyrie and, Anthony Davis's availability is up in the air. I think to this point, I think all Mavs fans, they just want the season to end at this point, right? When the top headline of the day is Nico Harrison and him, still holding pat to the trade and everything else, it just shows that they're not over Luka yet, and they're not focused to play ball. They're not trying to play their best ball to get into the playoffs. So for that reason alone, I'm picking Sacramento, right? I just think that with head coach Doug Christie, they've caught a rhythm. He's balanced out their lineups, and I just think that Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Sabonis is enough to beat the Mavs without Kyrie, and even with AD in the lineup, they're still beating them, right? So I got Sacramento in this game. I'm picking them outright to win the game. It should be a good game. It should be entertaining, right? Excuse me. It should be entertaining, right? But I see Sacramento pulling away in the third quarter. Yeah, you know, Sacramento has definitely had an up and down season. Very inconsistent because of the coaching situation. I think they rectified the coaching situation, and now they look a lot better, right? I think DeMar as their main playmaker, right? And you know DeMar. Well, I know DeMar's game. You know, for all the years playing for the Raptors, he's a true playmaker. He's a true point forward. You'll see him with a few games with 7, 8, 9 assists. Obviously, he shoots well in the mid range. Not so much from the three, but his three balls coming along here and there. Zach LaVine, he's just out there to run up and down the court and score. Sabonis is definitely going to have a big game regardless. If AD's in the lineup, he's looking at him like food. It's just another double-double, right? If you look up at the numbers, Sabonis versus Anthony Davis, you're going to see a surprise there, and you're going to see, Sabonis winning a lot of those matchups, right? But hey, do your own research. But other than that, yeah, I got the Mavs winning this game out. I got Sacramento winning this game outright. I just think it's just too much, right? Just too much stars and not enough star power on the Mavs squad, right? Currently. So just to recap, I have the Heat winning outright, and I got Sacramento winning outright. I guess, X factors in the game. I would give Sabonis X factor for Sacramento. And the Heat Bulls, I'd go Bam. That Bam and Vučević matchup is going to be something special to watch, right? Both of them are inside-outside guys. Both of them have, decent mid-range jump shots, and both of them can actually stretch that shooting out to the three-point line, right? So I'm really interested to see that matchup. But other than that, I hope everybody enjoys the play-ins. The real thing, I believe, starts on Friday. So I can't wait till Friday begins. But, this is just one man's opinion. Tell me what you think. Like, subscribe, share the content with a friend. Peace.